Okay, hello everybody. Thanks for showing up. Yes, I am Marcello. I am going to be doing this from my home office in Southern California. I understand most of you are probably from the East Coast. Dana, do you have a survey on where people are from?
I sure do. Launched right to you. What state are you calling from? If you are outside of the states we've listed, please throw it in the chat. We'd love to see where you're calling from. We also love to hear the out of USA participants. We love those as well. So,
wow, that's cool. It's in real time. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
At least for us. I'm going to go ahead and share the poll with the audience.
Oh,
there you go. We see it as panelists, as hosts. But there you go. Other state, honestly, we have a lot. 29%. The majority of our users are outside of the East Coast. That's fantastic. Look at our reach. California, Arizona, Florida, Kansas, Michigan, all over the place. Please continue to add them in. New Jersey. That's fantastic. Welcome, everybody.
That's great. This virtual format allows that as well, huh? So that's awesome. All right. Thank you for joining us. Yes. I'm in my home office, Dana and everyone else. Thanks for having me. Yes, this is, if you get bored and you want to look past me, that is my lightsaber. Well, it is, yes, they're lightsabers. I mounted them with the Q holder. Yes, it's a bit nerdy, but you know, I'm okay with that. All right, so let's talk about Practical Dynamo. All right, so thank you, Dana, for the introduction, and let's get going. So let's see if we can get this going. All right, yeah, I had a slide, but you already heard a little bit about me. Thank you, Dana. Yes, I do present across the planet. I've been working as a director of advanced technology at John Martin Associates. We're a structural firm in Southern California. This December, I would have been there 22 years. And I am a licensed structural engineer. These are some of the projects I've worked on in the past. You may recognize that's the Walt Disney Concert Hall. More recent one I did is that one bottom right. That's Frank Gehry's house in Playa del Rey. Here's some of the families that I built inside of Revit. You may recognize that's the Revit elephant, cow, you know, so on. So the idea here is I like to push software to its limits and teach the world. I still regularly talk virtual now, but around the planet. And anyway, check out some of my classes in the past. Also, I run a virtual website, like a media hub. It's called Simply Complex. It's got a blog post, a comic, and a Dynamo and Revit book, that Dynamo, Revit, and Rhino inside Revit book that will be out very shortly. So head on over there and sign up for updates. Okay, so let's see here. I got about 15 minutes. If you have questions, please feel free to throw them out there. This is Practical Dynamo, which could mean a lot, so I kind of took that as a loose thing to talk about kind of Dynamo in general. So here's my outline. I don't really like to do PowerPoint slides, but with that little time, I'm not going to be able to do any live demos, so we'll just have to do it through pictures and some maybe some interpretive dance here. Okay, so Dynamo for Revit, here's our outline. This is what we're going to talk about. I'm going to go over some Dynamo for Revit. I'm going to go over some Dynamo for X, because Dynamo is not just for Revit, and I want everyone to think, well, practically how else it could be used. And then also, what makes something practical and applicable in your office? So let's talk about that too. Okay, so I have taught a lot of classes over the years. A lot of them have been in Dynamo. I started using Dynamo in 2013. Back then, I started talking with a USC professor when they were starting to look at it, and I thought, well, this is only for twisting towers. Well, what good would it be? And I thought, you know what? That's not the right attitude. I bet there's a practical use for this. So back in 2013, I Googled Practical Dynamo, and I got 0 results in Google. And I was like, that's something I definitely need to look into. So I realized that this is something that could become practical. So anyway, I taught a lot of classes on it, and what I've learned over the years. By the way, this is a handout I put together of all the classes I've done. This is over 1,000 pages. I do teach a class at Autodesk University 2020 this year on. It's a summary of all my classes. It's like a best of. I did one in 2019. That was volume. What's that?
You presented at Revit DC, that class.
Yes, that was actually the birth of that class. So thank you. I was invited to Revit DC, and that started it. and then I did the class at Irish University last year in 2019, and now I'm doing volume 2 this year. So best of volume 1 was last year, best of volume 2 this year. So check it out. Okay, anyway, this was the class I did, yeah. So it was a total of 8 years of all the classes I did. But anyway, the point is that what I've learned from all the Dynamo classes that I ever taught was that Dynamo is something, it's really simple. Now, if you Google Dynamo, you're going to get a lot of different explanations. So I'm going to tell you what my summary is of it.
You'll also get a basketball team.
I'm sorry?
You'll also get a basketball team.
Yeah,
so you might want to be a little pointed with your Google.
You'll get a magician and, you know, so on. So let me tell you what my definition is. And this is going to be in the book. This is all it is. It's a visual programming language that creates its own parametric geometry and that reads and writes to external databases. So the external database that we normally think of is Revit, but it doesn't have to be Revit. Another one we may think of is Excel, which is, you know, pretty common. So Dynamo in and of itself is extremely powerful and quite simple in concept. So if you Google it, you may get an explanation bigger than this, but that's really at its core what it is. Now, let's talk really quick about Dynamo and why it was so successful, and it's kind of grown like wildfire, right? So Dana, I know you have a poll here on how many people, how much usage it is in everyone's office. Would you mind throwing that one up? And that'll kind of segue into this next segment here. 3
questions in there. The first one is how many of your team create Dynamo scripts used by the entire office? The second one is just for yourself. The third one is how many of your team run scripts created by others? So just really how many people use Dynamo in the office is the last one, right?
Cool.
Give you a few seconds to answer that.
We didn't put in a 0?
we started with a 0, but we decided to remove that. We're going to assume that the 1 to 2% might be a 0. But that's okay.
Throw it in the chat if you think you're a 0. Okay.
Yeah, there's like quite a few zeros. Okay, and after this, actually, so it looks like we're definitely on the high end of 1 to 2%. But
okay.
After this, I'm going to ask another question on how you use Dynamo. For those of you who looks like some of your team members actually do use Dynamo. We had a few percentages in there. So this might give us a better idea of who actually doesn't use Dynamo at all versus how they use Dynamo, right?
Okay, and it looks like we're getting some zeros in the chat. So that's great. This is going to be, the segment I'm talking about is a bit more is about Dynamo, but not really in the way you think. The way I see Dynamo, especially right now, and probably the reason you're here, is that you also want to see maybe a bit more of it, how it could be used in your office, how you can convince others. So I'm not going to show you necessarily how to use Dynamo, but really how to think about it so it could be successful in your office. So in order for something to be successful, this is kind of what I've learned over the last many years of doing this, is that it's got to be inexpensive. Dynamo comes with Revit, so that's kind of a non-issue. This is software that over the years that I've been doing this, all the classes that I taught, all the tens of thousands of people that I've interacted with, this is kind of what I've come up with making a successful software. And when I mean successful, I mean one that you can use in your office and make money off of. One is that it's inexpensive. Dynamo comes with Revit, so you wouldn't say it's free, right? You pay for it in your subscription. But anyway, it's readily available. Next one is it's easy to learn. Okay, we're going to talk about how Dynamo is so easy to learn. Okay, and the next one is it's practical, right? So that's the pillars that hold up something that's going to make something worthwhile using in your office. So we got to think about it that way. It's not just practical, but is it easy to learn? Is it inexpensive, right? And you got to think about it too. It's not just you that you have to convince; it's others, right? So that's what I'm going to talk about too. Okay, so enough slides. I want to show you some examples, but I want everyone to kind of think about it in that way, right? Like there's a bigger picture here, not just you, but who do you got to convince to keep it going in your office or to implement it a bit more? How are you promoting it? Are you overcomplicating it? Are you simplifying it? Or are you kind of in between? All right, so let's talk about that. Let's look at this example. So if you Google Dynamo scripts, you see the image on the left, that's a Google image, okay? Now, if you're kind of looking at Dynamo for the first time, or you're trying to wrap your head around it, and you look at images to the left, you may not get a lot out of it, because a lot of it is just like spaghetti and fuzz and boxes and wires, and you're like, wait, what's going on? What? That may be a little too complicated for me. I'm not so sure, right? So the way I think about it is, if you're trying to think about how to use Revit, you're trying to wrap your head around it, you're trying to convince others, it's best to really simplify it first. Look at the image on the right. This basically is, do you know what this does? With 5 nodes, what this does is it takes a wall and it aligns it to an edge of an opening with a certain offset, okay? Right now in Revit, we got some Revit users here. We have a poll on Revit. I'm going to assume we're all Revit users. Okay, think about Revit, right? With the align tool, if you wanted to align a wall here, can you see my cursor, hopefully?
Sure can.
Okay, when you want to align a wall to an edge of an opening, maybe it's a, you know, an elevator shaft or whatever. Anyway, and you want it to be at a 1 foot offset. If you just use Revit and nothing else, you would actually have to line the wall up using the align tool up to the edge of the wall, to the edge of the opening, and then you'd have to physically offset it back, right? Because there's no offset value you can set in an align command. You can use Dynamo to do that for you. And look how easy it is. 5 simple nodes. You lay them down, and then you can move a wall basically to an offset location, okay? By the way, I brought this up to Autodesk, and I said, you know, your align tool needs to have an offset value. And you know what they told me? They said it does have an offset value. It's 0. So anyway, okay. So anyway, the idea is that you can do this. So would you want to show someone on the left how to use Dynamo with the images on the left or images on the right? Just kind of think about it that way. Okay, so let's talk about some more practical examples. How much time do I got? Maybe 5 minutes?
We'll go with 7 minutes.
Okay.
Looks like the majority of us also are architects, but split pretty good between the disciplines except plumbing. No plumbing in here. That's sad.
They actually listen. Autodesk actually listens to users' comments. So maybe I'll stay focused here. You look at the chat.
That's a whole whirlwind of a conversation there.
Yes. Okay. So I've got a little summary here. All right. So practical Dynamo. Okay, let's do it. So basically, I'm going to show you some images that are basically in the book, and I'll show you my book later. Hopefully, it's going through legal review right now, but these are some of the images. Whoa. Okay. Did I lose you there?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I was getting a little glitch there on my side. Basically, there's just one-page summaries on lay a bunch of nodes down, right? A bunch, just a few, and then you get this practical result in Revit. That's kind of my format. It's called the cheat sheet format. Anyway, I'm just going to run through a few of these so you can kind of see how practical Dynamo could be. So we looked at that one where you just lay down 5 nodes, and then you can align walls to an offset value edge of opening. Right, here's another one. You can take all your text notes and kick them all to uppercase. Right now in Revit, if you want to take a text note and move it to uppercase, you can do that, but you got to physically select on each and every one. You can globally do that with just 5 nodes inside of Dynamo. We looked at that one. Okay, so here's just some other examples. You have the ability to create levels and grids, just on the fly. You can even link it to Excel files. I've seen people control levels with Excel files from principals that don't even use Revit. They just fill out levels, values, and then through that they can drive the elevations through like a shared drive. It's pretty cool. Okay, and then things like this, you can be able to expand the functionality of Revit. Typically, like if you want to, in this particular case, you want to be able to find the surface area of a ramp. Well, if you look in Revit in the instance parameters of a ramp, it doesn't give you the surface area. But with 4 simple nodes, you can actually get the total surface area of a ramp. Maybe you want it for painting calculations. Maybe you want it for formwork calculations, things like that. You have the ability to lay down structure easily. So I'm just kind of going through here. I've got over 100 of these. But anyway, the idea is that with just a few nodes, you can get moving practical with Dynamo. And if you're thinking of trying to get into Dynamo, or you're trying to convince someone in your office to get into it, this is probably a good way to do it. don't show them the fuzz. Show them something simple so that way they can absorb it. And they can be on that side of the pillar, which is, this is easy for me to learn. And if it's easy for them to learn, then that brings them in to try it. And a lot of times what happens when as I've been teaching, for I guess almost 9 years now, one of the only common complaints I've gotten is that, Marcello, you basically are oversimplifying this stuff, right? And my reaction is, you're overcomplicating it, right? And the idea is that if you can simplify something, then people think they can do it. And if they think they can do it, then they'll want to try it. If you show them a bunch of, something that's overcomplicated that may include every possible scenario, then they may be a little overwhelmed and not want to try it. You want to bring people in to try it, get a good attitude going about it, because quite honestly, you're always going to need to be convincing someone to use it, right? So anyway, this is how you can change a type using engineering logic. You can lay down floors. I saw a question about DWGs, CAD imports. You can take a CAD import with grids and build them in Revit with a CAD import. You can find imported DWGs versus linked, and so on and so on. Okay, so there's a bunch of these. All right, so the idea is keep it simple as you get going. Now, let me show you. The word practical doesn't always mean super simple, but I'm saying simplify it, you can get people to use it. Let me show you some examples. I don't think I've ever showed this to anyone, Dana. These are some projects I've worked on where I've used kind of Dynamo to the extreme, but we're still very practical and helped me a lot. Okay, so I thought you may...
When did you say the book is coming out for those of us who are waiting in suspense?
The book is in legal review right now. I suspect maybe 4 to 5 weeks. If you go to simplycomplex.org, reference manual, you can sign up for updates. Okay.
And all of those wonderful examples will be in that book, correct?
Right. That's right. There are hundreds of examples in there. And go check it out. Single one-page summaries. Okay, let me just show you really quick some examples I've used Dynamo for. This was a sculpture that we did, I believe it was in the Guggenheim. Anyway, we used a bunch of, okay, hold on. Let me move. I'm gonna move ahead. Do use Dynamo for that, but let me move ahead. This is something I don't think I've ever showed anyone either. Where are you? Here we go. Check this out. Okay, so this is the Queen Mary in Long Beach, California. We were doing some structural retrofits on the inside, but there was never a structural model that was actually built, a 3D model of the Queen Mary. So we actually went to the Queen Mary before COVID, and we got the original drawings. The things were like 16 feet long, super cool. So anyway, took that and did some calculations, and then built the hull, and then basically was able to rationalize it using some of the adaptive component tools inside of Revit. And then we needed to take this and we needed to rationalize it further so we can get it into our structural analysis software, so we can do stresses on the whole hull, that sort of thing. And so we were actually able to use Dynamo to discretize it and rationalize it once it was already a model. This was just kind of like a way to basically rationalize it. So because this has hundreds of thousands of points and meshes basically. Okay, very practical, saved us a lot of time, and was a lot of fun. And then ultimately, we got into our structural analysis software, reports on it, and then the organization was so happy that they actually, with the structural model that we built, this one, they actually put it up on their Facebook page. So you can still find this model actually on the Facebook page that was built from the original drawings, as well as Dynamo to help us out in a practical way, right? Okay, cool.
I think that's really it, right? I mean, you find a problem, you have a project, you have a problem, and you're like, there has to be a better way than me sitting in front of this computer for weeks and trying to rationalize it myself as a human, right?
Yes, exactly. And so there's another thing I want to talk about really quick, if I have another minute or two.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is that Dynamo, we think about Dynamo as Dynamo for Revit, but it's not just Dynamo for Revit. If your program has an open API, you can actually attach Dynamo to it. So in other practical ways, in our structural office, we're able to link Dynamo with our structural analysis software. So one is like a structural RAM structure, which is a structural analysis software. Anyway, I won't get too much into it, but but with just some lines of code, you're able to actually take Dynamo and link it with structural analysis software, not just Revit. And so you're able to reap the benefits from that, as well as pull information. Things like you would do with a Revit model, you can do with structural analysis models. So this is extremely beneficial to do this in a very, very practical way. I have hundreds of examples I could share, but I think I'm just saying that's kind of the overall idea. And any questions? Anything we should?
I think we're doing pretty good so far.
Okay. If I could, before we close, I will show you one more thing that we're working on here. Is the book that's coming out, I should mention it, is not just Dynamo, but it actually includes a new technology called Rhino Inside Revit, or Grasshopper for Revit. And so these pages that you saw originally with the Dynamo and the one-page summaries will have equivalent Grasshopper ones as well that you can take a look at when the book comes out.
This is fantastic, especially for someone like me who actually is very opposite, I feel like, of most people who go from Dynamo to Grasshopper. Mm-hmm. But most people, I feel like, go from Grasshopper to Dynamo, right? So it gives you those equivalents, which makes it so much easier than trying to break it down or Google it or what have you. I will say, though, and I posted in the chat, check out the Dynamo forum. You can definitely post questions up there. The Dynamo forum is fantastic. I know Marcello contributes to the Dynamo forum. A lot of us contribute up there and ask questions ourselves. So definitely check out there. But yeah, Google is an amazing resource. You know, if you just Google how to find a point in Dynamo, right? You'll find some amazing resources. But I'm very, very excited for this book.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, and this was one I showed, right, with making levels. In Revit, you could do the equivalent with Grasshopper. Anyway, just more resources out there to make your computational design, professional careers better. Okay, remember, keep it simple. When you show people, convince them, be energetic, do the practical stuff. Doesn't always mean simple. Go out there and be successful. How's that sound?
So it sounds fantastic. And it looks like everybody is super excited about this book, not just me. We have a lot of chatter going on about that. So we're looking at about 5 weeks-ish, right? And do you know the price of the book yet?
I'm still throwing that around, but it's
check out the website. We posted that in the chat. I'm sure you'll find that in there. Simplycomplex.org. Nick Sipes posted it in there, so you have that resource
right here. Okay,
that is awesome.
It is a color print. It's almost 300 pages. So price hasn't quite been set yet, but check for updates. It will be out very soon.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for that synopsis, Marcello. Marcello, for those of you who don't know, of course, Marcello is a very well-known person within the BIM community. He's a structural engineer as a background, but of course works in all kinds of different things, doing fun stuff, creating cows and faces and all kinds of unique stuff.